I got laid off, check. Layoff, check. Guys, I have an update for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Let's talk about layoffs, shall we?
So I just got laid off from Microsoft. This is certainly not like the kind of content I ever intended to post on here. I just made this account for like my Twitch and gaming content, but I figured I'd talk about it because I don't know what else to do right now. I literally just got an email last Wednesday saying my position was to be terminated immediately and I was to stop doing the work that I was doing. And I think the thing that pisses me off the most about this is I moved across the country for this job, right? I moved literally from the east coast of the US to the west coast, a 45-hour drive. I left like friends and family. My wife had to leave a job that she liked and really enjoyed, and I've only worked here for 7 months. It hasn't been a full year yet. That feels like huge business oversight, right? To like say, oh, we need the budget for this person, we have the budget to hire this person, and then 7 months later be like, oh, we can't afford them anymore, it's too much money. And I still get like 2 to 3 months of severance pay, so that's nice at least. And I was told it wasn't performance based, but like I had special clearance access on my team, so I'm the only person that could do like some of the work I was working on. And you know, I was told it was like high priority. I guess nobody can do that work now. There's a deadline coming up in like 2 months, but like how, like there was no reasoning behind it. And even like my boss was fired, and I talked to like my boss's boss. He doesn't have a reason for why I was like there's no reasoning. Nobody knows. It's crazy. And I've only worked here for 7 months. Why the did they hire me in the first place? I mean, I guess I just start looking for other jobs now. And maybe try to continue with the Twitch stuff or whatever, see how that goes. But just kind of like venting a bit, I guess. I don't know, I'm just kind of pissed off that this job made me move across the country and they only kept me around for 7 months. I don't know, it feels a little messed up.
As you can see, this guy unfortunately was a part of the mass layoffs that occurred in Microsoft. Earlier this month, I think they laid off close to 9,000 individuals. And he was a part of a team that was laid off. And, I understand the frustration that he feels and that other people feel right now. And it's no secret, it's no surprise right now. There is a white collar recession, that's what people are calling it, where a lot of knowledge workers are unfortunately getting laid off because companies are beginning to see things that perhaps we as the public don't see. And honestly, what the media is just not telling us. And that is that there is some financial difficulty that's going to be approaching soon. And obviously, there's many factors that go into that. And again, like I said, I get the frustration he felt. One thing that I do want to touch on when it comes to layoffs is that we have to understand that the number one goal for these companies is profit. It is cash flow. It is ensuring that shareholder value increases. That is the number one goal. And you could hate them for that. You could love them for that. Microsoft obviously is one of the Magnificent Seven. So it's really, really important for them to perform well. And considering who their former CEO was and all that has gone into Microsoft, it's not surprising to me that they would completely cut a team of thousands of people, or multiple teams, I should say, with no warning, because they have the money to do that, And I think the mindset that people should be having if they are applying for jobs like this, if you are a knowledge worker, if you're someone that sits at a computer, is that you need to obviously go to work, put your best foot forward, but understand that you're not entitled to your job. This has always been the case. I witnessed it when I was in corporate America. I got COVID while I was training, and I was very sick. I had to go to the hospital actually. And if I had not come back after 1 day of missing the training, I was going to get let go. There was no empathy, no sympathy. Obviously, I was frustrated, and it was my first corporate job at the time, and thankfully my only corporate job, and was very upset. But then as I began to grow as an adult, I began to understand that this is just a part of the culture of these companies. And it's not just the biggest companies, it's all companies, because especially these smaller companies, they don't have the amount of cash flow that a larger one like Microsoft would have. So they have to make cuts quickly, because where the largest expenses that they have are the employees. And oftentimes they overhire and cut the loose ends off, because that's just how corporate America works. You want to make sure that you can squeeze out as much as you can possibly get from people. Or once you find out who the top performers are, you can start making cuts to the low-hanging fruit and just kind of overload the top performers. It's just the cycle we all are aware of if you've been in corporate America. And so Microsoft, is no different, but because they have so much capital, they can cut teams loose like this. And it's honestly a bit scary. Like, I understand, because you can't fully be aware of when your last paycheck will come in. And one of the things I want to talk about is how you should be preparing yourself, because this could happen to anyone that has a 9-to-5 job. And if you are in that position, and let's say you have a decent income, you have to be positioning yourself well for this to happen to you. Now, that's not living in fear. It's just being wise to the fact that this is how the world works. Sometimes there are jobs that are cut, and it's purely not based on performance. It's just based on what is going to make the shareholders happy, what's going to drive revenue up in the future. And so you have to evaluate yourself. You have to evaluate your personal finances and, be saving more than what you think you should be saving. That's what these layoffs are kind of showing me, is that it's just a really, really big wake-up call for a lot of people that, again, you're not entitled to anything in this life, especially the jobs that you have. And as a business owner myself, I've learned very quickly, I'm not entitled to clients. I'm not entitled to any type of business. I have to go out and earn that business and position myself well by marketing consistently, building great network connections and a referral base. None of the jobs are just going to come to me. None of the clients are just going to come to me. That's just not how the world works. And I think it applies as well to corporate America. And as you've noticed in the news, these layoffs are happening all across industries, and recruiting as well. Known to be one of the most volatile industries, and actually have a video we're going to look at from a woman that got laid off who happens to be a recruiter. So let's take a look.
Every time I think I'm not going to get emotional, I end up getting emotional. But basically, this is my second time in the past, I think 3 years, being laid off from, honestly, somewhat of a dream job. And while I'm so incredibly grateful to be given opportunities to work in really cool industries and with really cool people, it is draining. Not only is it really draining working corporate sometimes, but working in a field that tends to have a lot of layoffs, because even when you have a job, it never really feels that secure. And the irony of it is I'm a recruiter, and I have been for the last 7 years. So I literally work in hiring, and I work with people who either lose their jobs or are transitioning jobs all the time. But when it happens to you, you still don't really know what to do. And even when you know that the layoff is not your fault and there's not really much you could have done, even in this last role, I was literally promoted 3 months ago, and then last Friday was my last day. So even knowing that there's nothing I could have done and getting feedback that there's nothing that I could have done, it's hard, because a part of you is really proud of your work and where you've gotten in your career. And so it feels like rejection when it gets taken away from you, and that part really sucks. I did not think this was going to be a come on here and cry video, because I've literally never done that on social media, but I was hoping maybe I was going to have something more inspirational to share. Unfortunately, at this time, I do not. Just know that it sucks, and yeah, if this has happened to you, I'm in your boat, and it's okay, I think, to be emotional about it, especially, I'm American, so especially living in a culture that really prides themselves on their work and their careers, and attaches a lot of value to that. It's okay to be a little sad. And at the same time, historically, people tend to figure things out and move on to bigger and better opportunities. So yeah, I'm just holding on to that rejection is just redirection, even when it doesn't feel like it.
So these types of videos have become so common. I'm seeing people very emotional, very upset, understandably so, are talking to the camera about how they've been let go from their job. And it is not a reassuring thing to see, given it kind of shows what the economic sentiment of our country is. And that's not good, right? Cost of living is very high. housing very, very difficult to afford for average people, average incomes. And now there are layoffs happening across the board. And I think one of the things she mentioned was that, and I agreed with, is that there's not like a real sense of stability in jobs today. And I agree with this. Stability is a myth. You should not expect stability at any point in your life. Things can happen out of nowhere. And to tell yourself that you're in a stable position, I think, just opens you up to be absolutely mollywopped, if you will, when things don't go the way that you expect them to go, when you get laid off from a job, in this example. And like I said, we really cannot be, living life comfortably, because when these things do happen and you have not been diligent and you have not been a good steward, and you even have not kept your options open, you're not going to be in a good position. And this kind of goes into another thing I want to talk about, and that's you kind of have to keep your options open as much as possible for as long as possible when you're in these types of job environments. And even when you're an entrepreneur, you're doing your own thing, you cannot be afraid to pivot, especially in a 9-to-5 job. People that I know that are successful, that have worked within corporations, they're looking to move every 2 years. And you might say to yourself, well, that doesn't look good because you don't stay at positions long enough. And I would come back to you and say, well, if you're young, if you're a millennial, if you're a Gen Zer, this to me, if I was a hiring manager, looks to show ambition. This looks to show that you're self-motivated. And those individuals that are self-motivated, that are diligent, they will reap the rewards of this job market. They will see things through. And this is something that needs to be taught, I feel like, perseverance and understanding that you have control of a lot. You don't have control of everything, but you have control of your own actions, and you have a lot of agency. And if you take responsibility, which again, I know if you got laid off, you probably don't want to hear that, but if you take responsibility and you understand that there's a lot more in your control than what you're led to believe, then you can solve this problem of being out of a job. Because again, one thing I do want to echo is that there is always hope. You know what I mean? There's reason to be happy if you get laid off. Obviously not initially, especially if you've not saved any money and you're in a terrible financial position. You're going to be very stressed out. And, I know many people that have been laid off, and that has opened the door to a business venture that has been wildly successful. And they probably would not have taken the risk on the business venture if they had not been laid off at that exact time. I'm someone of faith, and so when these things happen, it's obviously important to rely on God, to pray every day, to not worry, to not be anxious, but to understand that He will give you peace that surpasses all understanding. And if that's you right now, understand things will get better. And this next video actually is a different kind of video, because it's of a woman who got laid off, but who's very, very joyful and honestly pleasant to hear the story. So let's take a look.
I got laid off, check. Layoff, check. Guys, I have an update for you. This is really not a joking matter, of course, but we use humor to cope with things. If you didn't know my job situation, basically I started working with a startup company in like late January, early February. After leaving a job I did really like, but I felt like it was, ready to move on to the next chapter. No job is ever 100% secure, but startups are definitely more of a risk. I had a great connection with this company, and I actually started on a contract with them. So I had like a 2-month contract. It was kind of a trial period. And then after that trial period, they were like, yes, we like what's up, we like what you're doing. And then they officially employed me after that. This is not like a rat on this company specifically, but I basically got on a call around a month ago, and they were like, hey, really love what you're doing. We have shifted our internal priorities and we basically can't pay you anymore, which is really cute. And I've never been in this position before. And I know I'm making light of it, and it's also a month out. I honestly haven't talked about it. And if you're someone who's gotten laid off or ever lost a job or whatever, it feels embarrassing. I felt embarrassed at first, one, because I was so surprised. I thought things were going well, which they ended up reaffirming me, yes, things are going well. We are happy with what you're doing. Kind of a it's not you, it's me kind of breakup. It's literally how it felt. I was like, oh my God, why is my company breaking up with me out of nowhere? But oh my gosh, does it feel embarrassing, especially being that it was a new job and I left a job for this job, to kind of just be taken aback and then also be told, you couldn't have really done anything, but you're not gonna have a paycheck. Like, it definitely is frustrating and also just, again, embarrassing, because I'm like, I just, I've been raving to people about my job in this company, and now I don't even work there anymore. I'm not embarrassed anymore, and I also am very trusting that, like, when one door closes, so another one can open. I've weirdly been like posting less because I feel like I've kind of taken a step back from like evaluating what my life actually, like what I actually want to be doing with my life. So thankful for my savings account, and then also I had a couple of side gigs that I was doing which were able to just bring me a little bit of money even though I lost like my main income. I've been focusing this month on picking up a couple of other side gigs as well too, just in the meantime, and I actually did have a job interview today. My first interview. It took a month, but I got one. Just wanted to update and be transparent, and if you've ever been laid off, I feel you, unfortunately. Like, I am now right there with you. And again, this is no direct shade to the company that I was with. Sometimes it's how the cookie crumbles. It just sucks when like it's your cookie that's crumbling.
So this is a great story, Shout out to Emma for making an uplifting video like that. Obviously, the circumstances are not ideal, and she makes it known that they're not ideal, and anyone in that position would know that it's not ideal. But some of the things that you need to take away from videos like this and the overall sentiment of the job market is that it's all about taking responsibility for what we have under our control, right? And kudos to her for seeking out opportunities now with the skills that she has through side gigs, side hustles, even passion projects. There's time for those things, both when you have a job and when you don't have a job. Obviously, you have to make sure bills are paid, so finding anything at a point in time when you don't have a job is important. I will also always advocate for doing your own thing. I've said this so many times on this channel. I'm going to continue to say it because I'm of the belief the only way you can grow your income, make it scalable, make it, much more than it could ever be in corporate America. Whoopsie, just touched the light. To make it much more than what it could be in corporate America is to grow your own business. You have skills, you have ideas, and you need to test them out. Obviously, make sure you have income coming in while you're doing that. Or you could just do it in faith, and I pray the Lord be with you in that case, and He will sustain you. But position yourself well, position your family well, so that when that time does come, if it does come, you're ready to pivot quickly and make something of your own, to grow multiple income streams, to grow multiple skills, to have margin in life. And this doesn't mean it's going to come easily. In fact, it'll probably be very, very difficult for you. But it's extremely rewarding to see the fruits of your labor at the end of it. And so that's all for today. That's all I want to talk about in terms of layoffs in the job market. There'll be more videos about this as, unfortunately, this trend of layoffs continues to grow. But if you have any questions, please leave in the comments. If you have anything that you agreed with or disagreed with, leave in the comments. And if it's interesting enough, I may feature it in the next video. But until next time, I will see you in the next video. Peace.